My name is Nimra and I'm 27 years old. The night my dad's new wife mocked me at dinner was supposed to be simple, polite, forgettable. Instead, it became the moment. Everything I'd swallowed for years started burning in my throat. We were seated around a long polished table in her house, their house now, warm lights above us, expensive plates beneath us, and fake smiles stretched tight across every face. My dad sat at the head, proud and relaxed, like this new life fit him better than the old one ever did. His wife, Lydia, sat beside him, perfectly dressed, perfectly composed, perfectly cruel in the quiet way that gets applause instead of consequences. The conversation drifted, harmless at first, until she turned her eyes toward me with that sharp little smile and said, "So, Nimra, are you still figuring things out?" Her tone was sweet, but everyone heard the insult hidden inside it. A few people chuckled. Someone laughed a little louder than they should have. I felt my ears burn, but I stayed calm because I'd learned long ago that reacting only made things worse. She didn't stop. She never does once she smells blood. She asked about my job, tilting her head like she was genuinely curious, then corrected me mid-sentence, laughing softly as if I were a confused child. "Oh honey," she said, waving her hand. "That's not really a career, is it?" That's when it happened. My dad's new wife mocked me at dinner. I looked at him, waiting for him to step in, to say something, anything. Instead he sighed, embarrassed, and said the words that cut deeper than her laughter. "Stop making a scene." Everyone laughed then. Not loud, not cruel, just enough to let me know they were on her side. I stayed quiet. I smiled. I nodded. Because that's what I'd always done. I stayed quiet until she mentioned her job. She leaned back in her chair, glass of wine in hand, and started talking about herself. About her position. Her influence. Her connections. She said my name again, louder this time, and joked that maybe one day I'd understand what real success looked like. The table laughed. Even my aunt. Even my cousin, who used to share secrets with me when we were kids. I felt small, like I was 17 again, standing in my childhood bedroom while my dad packed boxes after the divorce, promising nothing would change. Everything had changed. Lydia kept talking, bragging, explaining her work in vague impressive-sounding phrases, enjoying the attention. And that's when I realized something strange. I wasn't angry anymore. I was clear. Clear enough to notice the details she kept getting wrong. Clear enough to remember the messages I'd seen months ago, the ones I never thought I'd need. Clear enough to understand that she had no idea who she was mocking. I stayed quiet, just like my dad told me to. I let her finish. I let the laughter die down. I felt my phone heavy in my pocket like it was waiting. The room buzzed with that smug, satisfied energy people get when they think they've won. Lydia took another sip of wine, smiling at me like she'd put me back in my place. That smile would matter later. For now, I just watched it. Memorized it. Because something inside me had shifted. This wasn't humiliation anymore. It was preparation. I looked around the table one last time and saw it clearly. These people weren't laughing because I was weak. They were laughing because it was easier than questioning the story they had been fed about me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the need to correct them. Not yet. I lowered my eyes, folded my hands, and let them believe I was still the quiet one. Let them believe I had nothing to say. Let them believe the night belonged to her. They didn't know that a single line, just one sentence, was enough to change everything. And they definitely didn't know that before this dinner ended, I would pull out my phone and watch their smiles fade. I waited until Lydia finished her sentence and the last ripple of laughter faded into the clink of cutlery. The silence that followed felt thick and uncomfortable, like everyone sensed something but didn't know what. Lydia looked at me again, eyebrows raised, inviting another reaction she could crush. That's when I finally moved. Slowly. Calmly. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, placing it on the table in front of me. The motion alone drew attention. Conversation stopped. My dad frowned, already tired, already annoyed, like I was about to embarrass him again. Lydia laughed lightly and said, "Oh come on, Nimra. Don't tell me you're going to Google my job now." A few people smiled. Someone snorted. I didn't smile back. I looked straight at her and said the one line that changed the air in the room. "You told people you worked there. You never said how." That was it. One line. No raised voice. No drama. Just truth delivered clean. The smiles started to slip. Not all at once. But one by one. Lydia's laugh caught in her throat. My dad turned to her, confused. I unlocked my phone and slid it across the table, stopping it right in front of her plate. On the screen were emails. Dates. Names. Not gossip. Not rumors. Documents. Real ones. Proof I'd stumbled across months earlier while doing contract work. Proof I never thought I'd need to defend myself with. Lydia didn't touch the phone. She stared at it like it might bite her. I watched her confidence drain in real time. She tried to say something, but nothing came out right. My aunt leaned forward to see the screen. My cousin's smile vanished completely. The room felt colder even though nothing had changed except the story. My dad asked her what it was. She snapped that it was nothing, that I was being dramatic, that I was trying to cause trouble. Same words. Different tone. But her hands were shaking. I spoke again quietly and steady. I explained that Lydia didn't have the role she bragged about. That she never had. That she'd been consulting because she wasn't allowed anywhere near decision-making after what happened at her last firm. I didn't insult her. I didn't exaggerate. I just stated facts. The kind you can't laugh away. Someone asked what happened at the firm. Lydia told them to mind their business. I didn't have to answer. The phone already was. That's when it hit them. The people who laughed. The people who stayed silent. They realized the joke wasn't me. It never had been. Lydia pushed her chair back. Face flushed. Accusing me of betrayal, of digging into her past. My dad stood up angry. But not at me. At her. Because this time the embarrassment wasn't his daughter. It was his wife. He asked her why he didn't know. She said she didn't think it mattered. The silence that followed was brutal. No one defended her. No one laughed. They just looked down, suddenly very interested in their plates. I thought about the words from the start of the night. How everyone laughed when she mocked me. How my dad told me to stop making a scene. How I stayed quiet until she mentioned her job. And now there was no scene at all. Just consequences. Lydia grabbed her purse and left the table without another word. The door slammed somewhere down the hall. My dad sat back down slowly, rubbing his face like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. He didn't apologize. Not really. But he didn't look at me the same way either. Something had shifted for him too. The rest of the dinner ended early. People made excuses. Chairs scraped. Goodbyes were awkward and rushed.